Sulaiman Botha, thanks for coming on the podcast. Could you start with an introduction of what you're working on and who you are?
Yeah. So, 17-year-old from South Africa. I have a Twitter personal brand where I teach people personal branding, client acquisition, things like that. There's some hints of self-improvement in there as well.
Yeah. And one thing that I thought was interesting I saw was in your bio is you're planning on retiring your mum in 2023. How are you going to go about that?
Uh, right now I have a coaching offer, which is like my primary source of income, basically, on top of like a course and things like that. So obviously get clients from that, build up the personal brand, sell some courses, things like that. But yeah, some results on that should be coming soon as well. Probably have a thread or something to do with that.
Yeah. Are you on track, do you think, to retire your mum by the end of 2023?
Yeah, I think it's closer than most people think.
Yeah, nice. Then what would
Yeah,
be after that? Would it then be retiring yourself?
honestly, not sure. I haven't thought that far in a way because after last year with some, I wouldn't say bad experiences with setting goals, but more so like setting goals, then it'd be like 3 months later, I'd have other goals. So then I changed my 1 year goal like three times last year or something like that. And so I was like, nah, I'm just gonna stick to like quarterly ones at the most, and then like focus on monthly, weekly, whatever I need to do to get to that. But yeah, I haven't thought too much about that. Probably just gonna be doing whatever I want to do, whatever my interests are at the time. I've always been somewhat of a hobby guy, so maybe I'll just use the money to fund those types of things.
Yeah. What are some of those hobbies?
Well, for one, I play chess, but then I mean, you don't really need money for that. But something I've always been interested in was like martial arts, learning things like that, like Muay Thai, maybe wrestling, BJJ, things like that. Traveling, of course, it's on everybody's list. Uh, yeah, nothing else in particular, I think.
Yeah, cool. How did you get into this kind of space?
Into Twitter specifically? What do you mean, like the whole
Just
entrepreneurship?
entrepreneurship, yeah.
Wow, goes back quite a while. I guess you could say it started with coding. Did that for 4 years. Eventually got into Twitter because of the people I followed on YouTube that were also coders. So I got into tech Twitter. Couldn't stand tech Twitter. Hated the people on there. Then I eventually found money Twitter. Some people on there, maybe like Danco, Dakota Robertson. Those were like kind of the people I remember from the beginning. And then yeah, I just got sucked into that world basically. But yeah, a lot of um, influences from a young age, I guess, that just led me to this part of the internet.
So you mentioned Danko there and Dakota Robinson. Was there any other main ones?
Mm, Iman Gadzhi, he was definitely another guy that's kind of more so outside of Twitter. Hamza was also a big one. Not sure if you're familiar with him. Probably are.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I guess those are the main ones I can really think of right now that had the biggest impact on my life.
Was anyone in your family kind of entrepreneurial, or was it mainly from the online stuff?
Yep, my dad was a business owner. I guess he has a business that I'm now running at the moment. But I've never really thought about that before. Like if that influenced my decision to become an entrepreneur myself. Uh, Probably did because I always heard him say things like, like like I'm my own boss. I don't need to necessarily like listen to what other people do. I can set my own working hours, whatever, all of that stuff. So probably.
Yeah. So to talk a bit more about this coaching offer you have, you're focused on like getting clients and converting them
Yeah,
into customers, right?
yeah.
So is that the main way you do that through funnels, like landing pages?
So yeah, last year I started doing like a done for you type of service where I would do that, and of course I had my own thing where I did that. So it was kind of a thing where I would learn to do it. I'd do it for myself, and then that would end up like working so I could do it for other people as well. But then I just got some experience, worked with some people, and then I started coaching essentially. So then I just started teaching it because I didn't feel like really doing the actual work anymore. It was never like the long-term goal. It was always just, okay, do this so that I get experience to be able to do coaching essentially. And then that's what I eventually started to do. Not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's good. Um,
Yeah.
were there any big kind of obstacles? I'm sure there were, like mistakes, challenges on that
Mhm.
journey, which slowed you down or you got kind of stuck on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Something I haven't talked too much about online yet. I want to start talking about it more. But the first few months of doing all of this, so I'd say that I made my first amount of like a decent amount of money around this time last year. It was July. I think the third or something was the first PayPal payment I got. And that was like, it was like $400 was going really well. It was a lot of money to me at the time. It meant a lot. It was like $400 was the first client. Did some more stuff. You know, personal brand was growing, was going on a bunch of calls and all this stuff. Next client was about $750, something like that. And then next one was also like 1200 or something. So it was going up at like a decent pace until around, let's say, the fourth client, which I got, which was around August or so. So the third one I got was also the one I got the best results for. It's like in my pinned thread, basically. But then I had too many clients at the time, and I wanted more still at the time because I didn't know my limits yet at the time. And yeah, so then what happened was the work quality was starting to decrease because of that, because of trying to get more clients, having so many clients to do work for. And on top of that, I was doing a performance based deal. So that basically means I would get paid for the results that I would get people. So if I created them a funnel, I would get paid like, let's say 20% to 30% of whatever they would make from the funnel, essentially. So if the funnel didn't do good, then I wouldn't get paid that much. And that's kind of the biggest mistake I had at the time. I didn't really have, on top of that, I didn't have any systems or anything to really speed up my workflow or anything. So I kind of got really overwhelmed at around 3, 4 clients at that time. And then, yeah, my income just stagnated from there for a while. And then it slowly just went down because my mental health also just went down because of all of the work and all of that just piled on after a while. So there was like 1 to 2 months where I wasn't really posting that much on Twitter because I had so much work to do. But then I was also doing so much work that I wasn't really getting that good results for the people that I was working with. And I didn't really have much money. I didn't make much money from that. So it was probably, my income was probably stuck at around like 500 to $1,000 at the time for like 1, 2 months. And that was just me trying to maintain things, just to have an income. But yeah, that's probably the biggest mistake, the biggest obstacle I had at the time.
Taking on too much. Yeah,
Mm, yeah.
that's interesting. That makes sense where you're saying that if you actually take on too many clients, it actually makes it worse for each client.
Yeah.
How did you kind of sort out your mental health from there? How did you kind of get back?
Mm, it's a good question. I Okay, I can't quite remember what I did at the time. Oh, I do actually have a YouTube video on this. So it was about like I was like in the biggest rut of my life or something like that. Um, what I probably did was, because I've been in a few of them in like the last year or so, let's say. So usually what I would do is I just have like a dopamine detox, as I say, just like the 24-hour hard reset. And then from there I would try to just uh kind of in kind of make it more of a lifestyle change in a way. So whenever I was in a rut, of course, I'd have a lot more instant gratification activities that I would do throughout the days. That would usually be YouTube videos, Netflix, watching series, anime, whatever that might be, eating more junk food, not working out as much, a lot more bad habits, less good habits. I would like either replace the good habits with the bad habits, or I would just like taper down the good habits, increase the bad habits. And so, yeah, that basically happened. And then what I would do is I would just try to like stop the ones that I know I don't really have that much discipline over. So, for example, if I start watching a series, like anime or something like that, I just have no self control over that anymore. Like I'll watch the thing and it'll be so interesting that throughout the day when I'm like
Mm,
doing work or something, I'd start thinking about it like, oh, this is gonna happen in the next episode. And I'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna watch one episode. One episode turns to two. You know how that goes. So I'd cut out things like that I just knew wasn't gonna work out for me, and then I would just like taper down the others, increase the good habits. So work out, meditate, journal every day. That's like usually the three things that give me the most bang for buck in terms of my mental health increasing, sitting outside in the sunlight as well, things like that.
mm,
And yeah, just having things to do. Because I've noticed that most of the time when I am doing things that are bad habits, it's usually because I just have the time to do so, you know. So just filling in that time with other things is usually what works.
mm. Yeah, that's certainly a thing I've seen recurring, that if people just have free time, they're not sure what, they have no direction, they'll just go for cheap pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about TV shows. I have heard that before, how people, well, I think the way someone said it was that these companies basically trick people into caring more about an imaginary person's life than their own,
Yeah.
which I thought was
Yeah.
pretty deep, but I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never thought about it like that before, but it's true. Wow.
Yeah, so you said you were quite overwhelmed with all these clients. Are you still in school, education, or anything like that?
Not at the time. Not now either, of course. But yeah, I dropped out in like 2022. Yeah, like end of the year. Wait, no. When was COVID?
2020, I think, originally.
If I can say that word, you can just bleep that out.
Nah, I
But
think I think we're good.
okay, okay. So yeah, end of 2020. No, 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 no. I keep getting this wrong. 2021 was when I dropped out, like the end of 2021, basically, because I did homeschooling in 2021 for a year, and then yeah, I just stopped after that.
Yeah, what's it like in South Africa? Do they not really mind that or anything? Is it kind of easy drop out or?
I think so because I didn't really have any problems with that. Not sure exactly what you mean by like maybe like the school trying to keep you in or something, or like the
Yeah.
government. But yeah, I don't think I've had any issues with that so far.
Were your parents supportive of that?
Yeah, yeah, my mother mostly. I talked to her about it. She was the reason I dropped out, of course. Like, okay, not the reason why, but like she was the main person I talked to about this. I basically just told her that I was in school because I was trying to make her and my father happy, just typical stuff. And she just said that she doesn't want me to be in school doing something that I don't want to do just for the sake of me trying to make her happy. Also, I think a big part that played into her being so supportive about it was that I had a plan in mind. And throughout the last few years, I also did things like coding. I kind of made some money before on the internet. So she kind of understood that I wasn't just going to be a bum and just like be at home all the time, start doing drugs and stuff. I had a plan. I told her about YouTube at the time. That was the main thing. I was like, going to make money from like YouTube ads, sponsorships, course sales, whatever that might have been. And yeah, I just had that conversation with her. She was like, okay, you can do your thing. And yeah, I told my father about it too. He wasn't the biggest fan of the idea, because his side of the family is like really big on education. Even now, some of them are still like kind of pressing me to go back to school. But yeah, that's basically how it went.
Nice. Yeah. So are you still going with the YouTube? I think you mentioned you made a video about your being in a rut, but that's not your focus now, right? YouTube.
Yeah, it's what I started with. I did that for like a year and a half or something and got like 300 followers, I mean subscribers or something like that. So that wasn't too great. Then I found Twitter. I started doing that, and then I just realized that it's a better platform for me at the time. So I just made that my main focus. Didn't really upload any videos for a while, and then every now and then, like a couple of months, I would like I would just upload a random video about like my progress or something. But I want to start like posting somewhat consistently again now. So we'll see how that goes.
What made you think that Twitter was like a better platform for you? Was it's kind of easier to just do tweets instead of having to record a whole video and edit and stuff?
Yeah, that was the main thing. It was like, this kind of a low barrier to entry. So you don't really need to know how to edit videos or have a good camera presence or anything like that. So it was definitely easier in that sense to get into it. I liked the space a lot more because there was like, for like and you get you get kind of quick feedback on the post itself, like a tweet, for example. Like, do people like the idea? Do they like this story? Maybe do they like this format of content? Whatever. And then on top of that, you have like the whole networking aspect of things, and also Money Twitter. The community is it's just great. I've never been in a better place before. But yeah, mostly that it was essentially that, and of course I was making better progress there. So I probably got 300 followers, which is like it's not really equivalent to YouTube subscribers in a way, but yeah, I got like 300 followers in, let's say, a month or something like that, or like 2 months. And I was like, okay, it took me 1.5 years to get to that on YouTube, and it took me like 2 months to get to this on Twitter. So might as well just make this my main platform. And the thought at the time was that I would grow my Twitter following and then kind of funnel them into my YouTube. So then they would like just start watching my YouTube videos as well. But yeah, that didn't exactly go to plan. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from quite a few people, that trying to move followers from one platform to another isn't really very good conversions at all.
Yeah, no. I've noticed even with the bigger accounts, it's not that great.
What do you think helped you grow on Twitter? Because you're seeing, I think, just under 8,000 followers now.
The main thing, and like the main thing I always tell people on, let's say, like consultation calls, for example, is having like a main storyline. Is kind of like I hope it's a term that I coined, but essentially it's like having this story that people know you for, and then they follow you in order for them to see it like finish, essentially, So like you mentioned it when we started the whole podcast, and I was like, the whole thing of retiring my mom. So now people see that, and then they're like, okay, this is pretty cool, but haven't seen much of this. And then they follow you. They want to see how it's going. And then you just need to update them like every week, every day, whatever that might be, every month. And then, yeah, they see your other content, of course, and then everything just works from there. So that's like really the main thing, I guess you could say. And then the other thing would, I guess, be having other big accounts retweet you. So that was also a big part of my growth. That's also what made me blow up around this time last year. For the first time, I posted a thread on like how I landed clients without a big following, without testimonials and like cold DMs or something. And then I tagged a few people in it, like in a kind of relevant way. So I was in Modern Mastery at the time, Danco's community / course type of thing. I tagged him, mentioned that, how much it helped me and all that. Some other things as well, and some people that helped me along with the journey. And they were also like fairly big accounts. And then like Danco, Dakota Robertson, Rob Lennon, they all retweeted that thread of mine. And then, yeah, I just blew up from there. I got like, I don't know, like 120,000 views in like 24 hours. And I grew from like 300 followers to 500 followers. And then from there, the momentum just got me to where I am now, essentially, again.
That's cool. Yeah, that's quite a cool thing about Twitter that isn't really on other platforms, is that kind of retweet feature.
Yeah. Another reason why I like it so much.
That's cool about the journey as well. I've never really heard anyone describe it like that, because I feel a lot of people on Twitter, they're just kind of tweeting their ideas from day to day, but there's not really any structure to it. Whereas that's cool that you're kind of pulling back the curtain, showing like, I'm trying to get to here and I'm going to show you along the way as I do it.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, there are quite a few people that I follow or that I'm subscribed to on YouTube, for example, that I did this with, but I wasn't really conscious of it for the longest time, because some people don't make it as like obvious as I do in a way. But I'm sure that a lot of people that you even follow have like end goals in mind in a way that you also want to see. And yeah, I think it's also just a really big part in differentiating yourself from other people. Because if you can have something a bit more specific, kind of like mine, in a way, people know you for that one thing. Like I can't even tell you how many DMs I've gotten from people just telling me like, oh, I really love that you're like working towards that, or I admire your goal or whatever. Um, and the way I kind of think about it, about like the whole story thing and personality content and things like that, which is also a big thing I promote, is that there are a lot of people out there, a lot of big accounts, for example, that post things that are like just information or whatever, it's usually faceless accounts. And some of them could literally disappear off the face of the earth one day. Like with, I don't know, like 1 million followers, ever many they have. And nobody would care, just because people don't really know who they are, because they can access the information just about anywhere. So I just didn't want to be that type of account in a way.
Yeah, personal brands are powerful, because even if you stop doing that, say you have 1 million followers on Twitter or whatever, but you stop posting on Twitter, if you go off and do something else, like say on YouTube, people are still going to know you and like respect you for what you have done in the past, because you actually attached yourself to it. Do you know Naval Ravikant?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
he talks a lot about accountability and how that helps you get more equity in the things you do.
Yeah, I remember that from like I think it was a podcast he did, like the podcast on his channel, maybe, or the Joe Rogan one. He's also actually one of the big people that kind of like inspired me to get onto the side of, well, to just get into like entrepreneurship, building a personal brand and all that as well. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think he's great. He's got a lot of great principles. I also like the fact he also isn't just all about the money. He also focuses on like health and happiness, like once he's kind of got to that point. Or I think some people just, they make a bunch of money but they just keep chasing it and they don't know what else to do.
Yeah, it's something I've thought a lot about, especially in the last few months, really, because um back then, like when I started making money, I was of course really happy because I was like making money, it made a big difference in my life, could like support my mom, all these things, buy some extra stuff, that I wanted. But I never really felt too happy about the progress that I was making at the time, because I was always comparing myself to like somebody else on Twitter. It's like a common thing, of course, that people go through in all this. But in the last few months, I kind of realized that I was never really chasing goals in a way that I wanted, really. It was things that I thought I wanted, because those were the options that were presented to me. But then I just thought one day, I was like, what about the other things that people haven't told me about? Why can't I be some guy earning like 10K per month doing like, I don't know, kite surfing or something in Hawaii? you know like, why can't I just be that person working like 2 hours a day or something and maintaining his business? Not that I want to do that, but I'm just saying, like, I've never really thought about what I actually wanted out of like all of these things, like business and all that, in like the last few months that I've been doing it, basically up until recently. And when I thought about that, I thought to myself that I never really cared too much about the money itself. Of course, I want the things that money would get me and all that, but it was really just the freedom to be able to do things, or to not have to do things, let me rather say. I think that was like the thing that I wanted all the time, but I just never knew, in a sense. And that always kept me somewhat unhappy in a way, even if I didn't really realize it at the time.
Yeah, I think you summed that up well there. The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss kind of opened my eyes a lot to the kind of time versus money debate, and how, like you're saying there, it might not have to be in Hawaii or whatever, but you might prefer working less and getting less money as long as you still have like the life you want. was it Kapil Gupta was talking about prescriptions and how, so say you're like, oh, I want to get money so I can get freedom, but a lot of people do that and then they forget about the freedom and they just focus on getting money and they keep doing that, and then they kind of lost sight because of the next step of what they actually wanted in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really important to remind yourself of that on however much you need to do that. I'm the type that often forgets about why I do things a lot, so I have to do it a lot more frequently. Like I try to have like posters in my room, or like just I have a mindset folder type of thing that I got from Tesh Dosa, which is like a daily thing you look at like 3 times a day or something, just going over your goals, why you do things, and all these things. So yeah, I think it's a really important part if you want the happiness and fulfillment side of things as well.
Yeah, our brain's always looking for shortcuts and like habits and stuff, so it can be easy to forget.
Yeah.
What would you say stops young people from like making money online?
That's a good question.
Or maybe what stopped you in the beginning, if that's easier.
Shiny object syndrome, I guess you could say, and like a lack of discipline. If I guess that would be like the core reasons in a way, because I did a lot of things like in the law, even in the time that I did like coding primarily, like everybody kind of knew me as the person that like the guy that was doing coding or that knew how to code, like people in school and family members, friends, all these things. But there were times where I was like not really doing that all that much. And then I would be trying out drop shipping because that was the hottest thing back then, in like I don't know, like 2018, 2019 or something. I tried things like forex trading. What do you call the thing now again? Drop servicing as well. At some point, I tried to have like an email marketing agency, something, and like a bunch of things like this. I tried to do like print on demand and everything, and I could never stick to anything for long enough to actually see results from it, because a lot of these things that you see people making like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month from are things that takes quite a while to get to a decent point, in terms of income. But even more so, it takes a while to even start making money in the first place. Like if you had to count the time I started on YouTube up until the time I started making money, like proper money for the first time, that was about a year and a half, close to 2 years or something like that, before I even like really made a significant amount of money. And from there, just like I guess it really went up. But yeah, I think that would really be the main thing, just having the discipline and kind of knowing. And I guess another thing would be you need to have almost like a delusional amount of self-confidence to to actually stick through it in a way. Especially if you don't really have access to the type of people we do now on Money Twitter, where they often tell you, you need to stick to it for this long. It's going to work out eventually and all that. But those are just kind of things I knew because, I don't know, I guess I just had a decent amount of self-confidence in myself back then. But yeah, I think that would be about the main reasons why.
Yeah, that's like shiny object thing is a good point, that you're kind of interrupting that, I guess, compound interest. And
yeah, exactly.
say it takes like a year to get to the point where you start making money in like a field or whatever on average. Every time you switch, you just keep restarting again. And like people looking for a quick fix, like, oh, I'll go to this new hot industry, like we've got AI right now, or like we've had crypto NFTs before, but I think people expect it to be almost too easy. Like they're just going to go there, and because the industry's doing well, they're just guaranteed to be making money. Like whatever industry you're in, you're going to have to do the work. So pick one and go with it, I think.
Yeah, it's like what I think it was Mark Manson said in his book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He was like, you basically need to choose what problems you want to solve in life. And that was always something I always kept in mind. It's like, do I want to have the problem of like being a coder, for example, having to like fix bugs all day and I don't know, have to like look for jobs, try to get raises every month and everything? Or do I want to have the problems of like a YouTuber or something, whatever that might have been at the time? because you're always gonna have problems in life, is what he said. There's no avoiding it really, but it's just the type of problems that you're willing to tolerate in a way.
Yeah. Naval says we need to kind of almost give up this idea of problems, because like they're there for a reason, and that's how you like kind of get to the next level.
Mm.
People kind of get emotional when they have a problem sometimes. It's like, well, there's always going to be problems, so the better you get at dealing with them now and accepting them, then it's just going to be a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the future for you now? I know you said you had a bit of a rut, and you said your
Mm.
engagement and stuff kind of dropped. How are you bringing that back?
Yeah. So right now, more short-term vision, I guess, to get back to the point that I was before, is just upping the frequency, upping the volume of a lot of things that I'm doing. So more tweets, trying to post like 30 tweets a day, but that's like, like tweets, threads, like all the tweets included in the threads as well. That's like comments, quote retweets, things like that. So like, I think Marcos Ruiz said this, but he said like 30 actions a day on Twitter in a way. So it's like all of those things included. Because I had a look at my analytics the other day, and I noticed at the time that I was growing the most on Twitter, so that was like 1,000 to 2,000 followers a month, was also the time that I had like the highest frequency of posts. So that was like, I think it was 1,000, 1,200 posts per month or something like that. And
40 a
like
day.
for the last, it's about 30 a day. So yeah, for the last few months, it was like 500, 300, And my argument for that back then was like, at first it's quantity, and then eventually it becomes quality and all that. And I could maintain the same amount of growth with like half the posts. So I was like, no, why not do that? But I realized that I should have just like kept my foot on the gas the entire time, as long as I could have at least. So yeah, that's basically it right now. It's kind of been difficult because I still felt like I was in the position that I was in a way back then, where I like had all of this engagement. I was getting leads on a daily basis. Could like book a bunch of calls really easily and all that. So then when I got back to it and that wasn't happening, it was bad for the ego, to say the least. But that's essentially it right now. And then upping the income, still trying to kind of maintain the same amount of work hours, for example. So like the last month that I made money, I think, was in February. That was before the break I took on Twitter. And I made like, I think it was like $1,300 or something like that. But I was only working like maybe 2-3 hours a day or something, compared to like the last year, around like this time, 1 to 2 months from now, around this time. I was working the entire day. I can't even tell you how much I was working. It was like from the morning till the evening. I was like constantly doing something, whether that be creating content for myself, for a client, doing a funnel for them, emails, landing page, and all that. And I was making less money. So just kind of just having that balance.
So yeah, you're going to try and stick around that 3 hours a day, you think?
Yeah, 3-4 hours. I found that's what's his name? Cal Newport talks about the whole thing of like you can do like 4 hours of deep work a day, and for the most part, like the 4 hours, like 3 to 4 hours, is like lever moving tasks. So that would be content, DMs, I guess you could put in there as well, sales calls, things like that. And that's typically how much time I need, because I'm not writing content every day. For example, maybe it takes like 3-4 hours a week or something, and then the rest is like calls, DMs, things like this, emails, whatever.
Yeah. And then what else do you like to do in your free time? So you talked about you go work out and...
Yeah. So working out has definitely been a big focus of mine again now. Been bulking for like, I don't know, 10, 11 months now. Kind of sick of it by now, but I gotta see it through. And then, I used to play chess quite a lot. I stopped doing it recently because I didn't have as much time. I'll probably get back into that at some point, because I also want to kind of like mix that in with my personal brand in a way, kind of like do everything that I'm doing now, but in a chess themed way, in a way, because I've noticed there's a lot of similarities in terms of chess and like how to be good at chess and like how to be good at life, business, whatever it might be. And yeah, for the most part, it's really just that and like learning, learning Spanish, a bunch of extra things.
Yeah. What's with Spanish? Do you plan on going to Spanish-speaking countries or something?
Yeah. Big goal is to just move to Latin America like next year and just travel the place
Yeah.
for like, I don't know, 6 months or something. Come back on Christmas. Just me and like one or two other friends, basically.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard good things about Costa Rica.
Yeah, definitely one of the places I want to check out at some point.
And then where else? Like Mexico and places around there.
Yeah. Mexico, Colombia, Argentina is also another place that I've had my eye on as well. I also want to get a residency in Paraguay. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's also one of the countries in Latin America where you can pay 0% tax. So get a residency there, set up the business there as well, do all of that, and then just travel around there as well.
Yeah, it's a popular one. I've heard Paraguay to get a residency.
I don't think I'm quite ready for Dubai yet.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think Dubai would be good to visit. I don't know if I want to live there though. It sounds like there's like no nature, just like desert and buildings.
I think it would be kind of weird for me. As much as I do like the city life every now and then, because I stay in a place that's like there's a lot of nature, like trees and stuff everywhere. I do like it, but I think I also really like this as well. So I don't think I would be able to stay in a place long term where there isn't nature, or at least like a beach or something,
It's like one piece of grass.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you want to you talked about traveling around there in the future. Do you see yourself living in like Paraguay, or would you want to be a kind of digital nomad, or not really thought about it?
I'm not too sure about a place that I would settle down in. Maybe like long term stay in Latin America would be, like Paraguay. I need to be there a few days in the year. I think it's like maybe 3 months or something in the year to maintain it, or I don't know. I think it might be less than that. But I like Marbella as well as like a long term place from what I've seen so far. That's in Spain. But it also seems to be like a place where a bunch of rich people stay, rich older people. But yeah, I really like it there as well. So maybe that.
Interesting. Yeah, cool. Is there anything else you want to add? Any kind of closing thoughts?
Not much than I've already said, really.
Advice.
I really can't emphasize the part about.
Oh, go on.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say I really can't emphasize the part about just like taking some time to just think about what you actually want. It's honestly been one of like the biggest realizations for me in the last few months, really. Like one of the biggest ones specifically was that like this whole online business thing was never really my, how do I say this? Like it wasn't really my end goal in a way, because for the longest time, my life revolved around all of this, like learning the intricacies of business and funnels, marketing, whatever that might have been. And I neglected a lot of other areas of my life that I also cared about, so like my relationships, whatever other hobbies I had and all that.
Mental health.
And then I just realized for the first time that it's like being able to do all of those things, strengthen my relationships, being able to do like some of the hobbies that I spoke about and all that was like the reason why I started doing this in the first place. So
you'd be free to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm making money, but I'm not doing those things anymore. So what's the point? That's why I remember one of my uncles once came here, and he also makes like a decent amount online. He works for like a marketing company or whatever. And I told him how much money I was making from this, and he was like, okay, so why don't you like work more? Why don't you like keep your foot on the gas and everything? And that was around the time I had the coaching offer. So that's when I was like, I made like the 1,300, something like that. with a 2, 3, 4 hours of work a day. And thought to myself, like, you're right. Yeah, like I could be making more if I spent more time doing all of this. But for how long am I going to do that? Now, honestly, I would. It's like it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make in a way. I understand that I'm not going to make money as fast as somebody else that's working 10-hour days or whatever that might be. But as long as I can kind of maintain the lifestyle that I want while doing this, I'll find a way to make it work. Like I've always had that mindset with things. If I don't like something, like I don't like the whole hustle culture type of thing, that I was into that at some point as well. But like, I don't want my whole life to revolve around work, essentially. Also, another big realization I had. But yeah, I don't want that. So I'd rather take my time, build up an audience, build up the leverage needed for me to like be able to work the amount of time I want to work, and then still maintain the lifestyle that I want, rather than like temporarily kind of sacrifice that for like future gains, because it was something I did too much. I kind of just had like bad experience with it in a way. So yeah, I'm trying to find that balance for myself.
Was it the meditation and journaling which kind of helped you have that realization, do you think?
I think so, yeah. A lot of conversations with friends of mine, too specifically. Yeah, we have a lot of conversations where we just think about it, like bounce the ideas off one another. And the funny thing is that most of like the two friends that I mentioned, for example, we have very different views on things like this. For example, like they would work a lot more than I do, and like they wouldn't mind like putting in that, like, let's say 6 months or something of just like working all day or something like that to eventually be able to reap the rewards of that. But still, I could talk to them and kind of like clarify my own thoughts on it in a way, because they're quite open-minded. We never really disagree much on things. It's just like, okay, we have different views. I respect your views, and then we just find ways to justify it for one another.
Yeah, that's the best way. Having a group of people to bounce ideas off is certainly really helpful. I've had the same thing. Online makes it a lot easier as well to find these people who are kind of in that space. So that's something I definitely recommend to anyone who's listening to do.
Yeah.
All right, man. Where can people find you?
So Twitter at Sulaiman_Botha, and I think my username's the same on. No, it's not the same on YouTube. That's Instagram. But yeah, and then also Sulaiman Botha on YouTube. Probably gonna be one of the first search results, I think.
I can put the link in.
Yeah, but basically those two places. So we are most active.
Yeah, and then if people want to work with you, scale their business, they just send you a DM,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, you could also just DM me on Twitter.
All right, cool. I appreciate you taking the time. It's been interesting. We've talked about some interesting stuff here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, man. It's been a while since I've done one of these.
Yeah, keep it going. I'll be following your journey, with retiring your mum.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. So yeah, have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
All right.